I was born and raised Catholic. I was baptized as a child all my life.
Who helped you learn about your faith as you were growing up?
Well, I guess my mother was probably the first one to teach about faith. She was good about taking us to church. My dad did go to church a lot. He worked a lot of weekends at the Auburn prison, but he did go with us on holidays. He was a Catholic and believer, but not very active in church.
Where did you receive First Holy Communion, and can you name the priest who offered the Mass?
Oh, it's a red trivia contest. I was raised in Sacred Heart Church in Auburn, New York, and so I would have been 8 years old when I received First Communion. I'm sure it was Father Raymond Wall, who was the founder of the parish. He came into Auburn back in the late 50s and started a parish from the ground up, and the parish is still there. So he would give me First Communion. I knew him till his death. He came to my first Mass and died by here. Good man.
Were you an altar server?
Yeah, my brother and I served all the time. We were one of those kids that whenever we came to Mass, if there wasn't somebody serving, our parents tapped us on the shoulder, we had to go up. And so we served a lot of the holidays. So I was a server probably up through high school.
Do you have any stories about that?
Story about being an altar server? Well, probably the most memorable one is when the church was first built, it was just a gymnasium. And then they had the classrooms around the outside of it. We used to... It was very tall ceilings, and we used to, every Saturday night, the 8th graders put out the chairs. So when they built the new church, it had a lower ceiling. And I remember I served in one of the first Masses, and we had a processional cross that was it was a metal. It was sort of like that resin, sort of like made to look like wood, but it wasn't. And it was always pretty tall as we were processing out. The crucifix hit the lintel of this church, and Jesus fell in about 1,000,000 pieces. But Father Wall never really made a big fuss, and I was very thankful for that. But the year later, he told the kids when he was training them to be altar servers, make sure you bow when you come to the lintel. So I remember that, so that was very exciting.
When did you first start thinking about becoming a priest?
Well, probably as a young man. I know in 5th grade we had Catholic Schools Week. We did a vocations thing, and I did sort of do a picture of myself as a priest. So it was sort of planted early on. I thought about it all through high school and college. I actually thought about going to high school seminary, or college seminary rather, but decided to get my teaching degree instead. And eventually went to seminary and got ordained in 1994, and I'll be 20 years ordained in 2014.
When did you want to become a pastor at St. Paul's?
When did I want? Well, actually, back in 2008, I'd been covering 2 churches for about 6 years, and it was quite a ways away from where I grew up in Auburn, and I told the bishop I was interested in something a little bit closer to Auburn where I grew up because my mother was getting older. And so he said that at that time St. Paul's was available, so he asked me if I'd consider going here. And I came down and prayed over it and thought about it. And there were 2 things I liked about St. Paul's. One was it was closer to Auburn, and the church was being redone. And I had a lot of, it was really difficult in my last parish. The whole building needed a lot of maintenance. I was really excited by having a building with a good shape. So back in 2008, I asked St. Teresa if she wanted me to come here or not, and I got pretty much of a go-ahead. And my date of appointment was October 1st, her feast day. So I came here 2008, October 1st, 2008.
When sitting in church at St. Paul's, is there a special statue, picture, or other object that you feel drawn to? And if so, why?
Well, it depends on where I'm sitting, I guess. Sometimes in the morning I'll sit in the front pew for my prayer, and I do like the crucifix that's in the sanctuary. It's a beautiful crucifix. It's of the Orthodox style, but it's a beautiful image. I also like to stop at the statue of St. Teresa, since I have a special devotion to her. She's very devoted to most priests. She wanted to be a priest herself, and she had a special love for priests, and so I often pray to her for guidance and help. During the summer months, I'll go out to the rose garden. I'll clip roses to place them in front of her image. So I often find myself stopping at the statue of St. Teresa.
Here's a possible stump the priest question. Can you name the pope since you were born?
Oh, that is a tough one. I think John the 23rd was pope. I was born in 1963, and then he died, I think, around 65, and I believe he was followed by Paul VI. And then after that was John Paul I, who only lasted about a little over a month, I guess. And then John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, and we currently have St. Francis I. So we've got quite a few popes.
If a first-time visitor was to attend St. Paul's, what do you think their impression would be and why?
Well, sometimes when we have visitors, people will actually tell me what their impression is. I've heard a couple things. One is people always tell me it's a very beautiful church. And one thing I do like about St. Paul's is the church is well maintained. It's always clean and well maintained, and it is bright. And I like the size of the space. It's very nice too. It's a very intimate space. And I have had people say that they felt very welcomed here, which I like to hear too. So we have a lot of visitors in the summer, so I think it's very good in the summer that people make an effort to make people feel welcome. And we do have people come and join the church. We've I think we get about one or two members every few months. So we got about 10 new members this past year, which I think is really good for a small community. So we've done well.
Is there anything you would like to see added to the St. Paul's of tomorrow?
Well, you roller coaster? Or is there something else you want? St. Paul's of tomorrow. Youth ministry is always a concern. We don't have the community of St. Paul or Hancock doesn't have a lot of youth, but I always feel it's important to encourage our youth to be involved. What else would I add? There's a lot of good things right now. I'm very proud of our food bank and how well they reach out to the community, so that's good. No major deficits right now. I always like to have people feel encouraged to be involved in the parish when they can. So, adult ed, I like to continue adult ed to encourage our adults to continue their religious educations. But no major deficits right now that I can think of.
Any ideas on how we might become more of a universal church here at St. Paul's?
Well, one of the issues we always have is being on the bottom edge of the diocese. Sometimes we have a hard time being involved in diocesan events. We have to travel, so that's always an issue. But I think we do pretty well. I'm very proud that we have people in our parish who are involved on the diocesan level. We have people who have gone through the Cataract With Institute. We actually have a member of our parish who serves on the Diocesan Pastoral Council, which I think is a feather in our hat. Although we do well on local needs, I think we might want to look at how ways we've evolved in the world scene as far as some charity and outreach to the world. I think in the future we're going to continue to need to be aware of using the electronic media. I'm not that good with computers, but I really think we need to do more with that. We need to do more with Facebook and Twitter and internet. And, we have a good website, which is good, but I personally am not too good on computers. But that's going to continue to be a need in the future as to how to reach out to people using electronic media.
Thank you very much, Father Chris.
Well, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.